It's lovely to see you here today, everyone. This is going to be really interesting. I love this topic, and I know that Amy does too. And I'm really curious about you guys. How many here work as coaches? Okay, all right. And how many here has worked for coaching more than 5 years? Okay, all right. 10 years? Okay, all right. Beautiful. Okay, nice. So yeah, we would like to do this interactive, right? Yeah. So we'd like to hear from you. What kind of questions? What would be the most valuable for you guys to get out of this? I know that everyone here is, searching for something. You're here for a reason, hopefully, and so we would like to know. So please, yeah, Kjetil first.
I would like to know from, because I'm starting as a coach, and I would like to know from all of you that have experience, what would you have told yourself when you started up as coach?
I've been working as a coach for the last 18 years, and I had 8 years outside of the principles first. So I was deeply into NLP and hypnosis, and so a challenge for me at that time was to know which techniques or tools or strategies or how would I coach. So I was pretty unsure and up in my head when I was coaching, and I just did not have the impact as I've seen as I've come more into the principles. So the simplicity that the principles has brought, the simplicity and the certainty of what we are doing and what we're pointing to is I think that's the thing that's made the most impact for me, as I know that if people come and work with me, as long as they're committed to change, they will change their lives. I know that. I did not have that certainty. I didn't know what I was doing before. I really didn't. I was just trying out different techniques and tools, and now I know what I'm doing. And so really, and what are we doing in the principles? And for me, a short explanation of that is we're pointing people to who they really, really are. Seeing that they are, in my words, love, and having or living the full expression of that, stepping into their greatness is what it's about for me, helping people to, and stepping out of their heads and into their hearts. That's what it's about. So being really clear about what we're helping people with. And that's the certainty, because I know that, this is something my closest mentor, Dr. Linda Pettit, I've been blessed to work with her for the last 5 years, and we've been talking together so many times, and she told me this so many times. I'm not sure if it's because I learned slow or if it's really important, because she told me probably 10 or 15 times, and she met Sid once, or many times, but this one time she asked, she knew that love is the answer, right? And she asked Sid, but is that enough to know that love is the answer? Is that enough? And then Sid looked at her and said, no, love and understanding is enough. So it's about your understanding of love, your insight into love, your beingness into love. And from that perspective, the deeper you go into your own insight and beingness into love, and you understand how that works, and you see that deeply, that's where your certainty lies, and your biggest impact as well, as far as I see. And so I would say that's the most important thing, to really realize what that means. And now you can take that much further, but from that would be my, just see the beauty in yourself and in others, because to see it in others, you really have to see it deeply in yourself as well. So, and understand how that works, you know. Yeah. Or questions, or, yeah?
Yeah, what do you say the differences between coaching, mentoring, facilitation, and I know labels, but do you think they have a different meaning to them, or do you think they can all mean the same thing? Within the three principles context.
Okay. Do it. Go for it.
Sure. I think they're just labels. I don't think it matters really. I mean, I think each of us has our own style, our own way of being with people, whatever you want to call that, you can call it. We could probably bucket those things. I think some of us probably naturally, bless you, like work with people in a way that feels more like mentoring or feels more like coaching. But again, those labels are going to mean different things to different people. But I think it's like I always avoid saying your name because I know I say your name wrong, so I'm so sorry. I won't say it how I say it. I know you have. All my Norwegian friends, it's not just you, I'm horrible. But it's like this beautiful man said. I'll call you that. That it's like, what are we pointing to? Like what's the essence? And I just think that's really important for each of us as a helper in any way to kind of have a sense of, like, what do I know is true of this person I'm sitting with? And then how can I just, in any context, with any problem, with anything that comes up in this conversation, how are we just pointing them back toward that? And that'll come up in a business setting, in education, and coaching, and as a psychologist, and anywhere.
I have a question about, my coaching is about mind-body connection, and holding a space for people when they're having very difficult sensations coming up. So I'm okay with emotions, crying, and everything like that, but I'm really pointing people to reconnect to the body, because so many people are just here, and they're not even aware a lot of the time that there is all these sensations going on in the body, and they've been carrying them for most of their life. And so an example of someone I'm working with, I know that she's had deep trauma and she feels it all here. And there's a lot of crying and stuff, but I know that this needs to release. And it's like, I guess it's about my own confidence of, do I do that in the session, or do I point her to more of a body practitioner, or and I know what you talked about last night was perfect in terms of, Roger, feeling the energy of that, because that's what it is really, it's energy.
Yeah. I think you said it really when you pointed to like your own confidence in it, and I think you can have that confidence. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it has to happen in session. We can do it in and out and all over the place. But for I think the power of that person sitting and feeling, and you being there knowing that that's a safe feeling, when everything in their head is saying, no, don't go there, and has been for years, because their mind is just conditioned to prevent that. And so for you to say, hey, I'll sit here and feel with you. Let's just feel. It's just energy. It's safe. Even to do that for a minute in a session is so powerful. Then that enables them to go do it on their own more. But I think it's so it coming from a really well-meaning place that we worry about that, and it feels big. We're like, am I doing it right, or am I equipped to do this, or, you know, and it can be as simple as just that.
Yeah, because I've seen people release trauma, when they release trauma, you know, sometimes they go into like a real shaking response, and that
Yeah.
feels like, oh, am I qualified to be doing this? Yeah.
But that is so safe. Animals do that in nature. They get in fights in the woods, and then they sit and shake it out. So I think the more you do it, you'll keep seeing too, like, okay, this is just a beautiful, resilient response.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have
Sorry, you go first.
a health question. I know we're not supposed to ask them, but how do you deal with discouragement? When your client is discouraged, they close off completely and they're just sitting in the discouragement. I find myself, I have a hard time with that. How do you deal with that?
I feel compelled to ask you something more about that. So, what happens to you then?
I think that's the good question, because then I get discouraged and frightened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing to see, you know, because, you know, I could take this to listening, you know, because for me, listening and the way that we listen is just, I was thinking about this when, earlier today, you know, the depth of how deep we can listen. And I don't know if you were like me, but when I was a kid, I was always, not always, but sometimes with my friends trying to dig and dig the way to China.
Australia.
Yeah, that would be probably more accurate. Yeah. I didn't know geography. But, you know, it was, it's pretty far, you know? And even a meter is far to dig, you know, a meter into being a good listener, and then 100 meters into being a good listener, and then 1,000 meters, and you just keep going until you're in Australia or China or wherever. So, and the personal mind, you know, the discouragement, you know, that we feel is so easy. You know, it's so easy to get invested in the results. You know, we want to do well. We want insights to occur now, and or we get afraid. You know, if we're able to do this, you know, we just get into insecurity in some ways, and for me at least, I do the same. So you're not alone. I do the same, but I've seen more and more that, you know, I can see it in the moment, and I can get back to the present moment. And the more I do that, I'll be, you know, the capacity of the mind just comes back again, and I can see clearly, and I can be a magnet for getting people back into the not discouraged mind, because love is never discouraged, right? And when we're listening from a place of just being in that, being in China, you know, just being as deeply connected to who we really are, we will bring people to us. You know, it's the most powerful force in the world. And so we tend to just get invested in am I good enough? Or what should I do? Or how am I doing right now? You know, or I want the results, or all those personal thoughts, you know. Love is always the answer. Why? Because love is a mind that is not contaminated. by personal thinking, you know. So back to the first point, you know, the deeper we see love, is also deeper listening. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
No, I love that, and I think this question is so huge because every time, it's just something I see over and over with myself too. Every time it looks like there's kind of a problem, like, oh no, they're closed down, or they're not listening, or whatever it might be, it's always back to me. Always back to like, so why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Like they're just feeling an emotion, no kidding. We all are all the time. Why is that a problem? And it always points back to my own thinking or my own insecurity or a judgment I've made. So that's just, yeah, just want to say it another way, but I think it's just huge. And how awesome is that? Because it's like then there really is no problem. There is no uncoachable client. There is no, you know, no issue that's really an obstacle. There's just whatever's going on for us, and then we just let that move through.
Somebody before.
Yeah, okay.
I don't really know if mine's a question, and thank you, that response is really helpful to this lady at the front. I think I just want to share that I feel like I'm in the bumbling along phase of coaching. What I mean by that is, you know, I feel still relatively new to the principles, only in the last couple of years. And I'm at the trying to bash people over the head with it phase, where, you know...
How's that going?
Yeah, so like I'm a career coach, and I was before. You know, and I've just been working with someone who turned up saying I'm depressed, and on a physiological level, he kind of looked depressed. He was very quiet, you know. I mean, I'm making generalisations, of course, here I go, but you know, and kind of looked a bit scared and nervous, and yeah, honestly, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'm just going to say it in case it's helpful to anybody else. It's just like in the second session, I was basically trying to convince him that this was about thought, and he was creating his own reality, and he'd not asked me to do that at all. But I think it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of just wanting people to have a freedom that I am starting to enjoy for myself. Thank you very much. That was a very good idea to bring a book on. Very good idea. So I don't know what my question is. Maybe I'm looking for reassurance. I don't know. I just wanted to share it in case anyone else is. I feel like it's a phase that I'm in.
I feel like it's a phase that most people go through, honestly. That is so, I was there, I'm still there sometimes. Like, really, I mean, it is so relatable. It's not just you, it is coming from a well-meaning place. We've seen something and we just get like this about it. We just want to give it to everybody. And I think we just kind of have to learn it just in the doing of it. I mean, I don't remember, but I feel like I did that for years. And slowly it was like, oh, I can be in my own grounding and let this kind of encourage it to come up from them rather than me pushing it. But again, I feel like that takes a long time sometimes, or a short time, or whatever it takes, but it's very, very normal, and you see it, and so you just kind of have that sense. So when you're like that, you're like, oh, he has to see, like that's just your feedback, you know? You're like, oh, and then maybe you just put it as a question. What do you see about thought here? What do you see about the role? What do you think's going on? And keep making it a question, and then it takes it off you a little bit. That's my strategy for that.
I love that, and I can really feel that you want to make a difference, and you are, and I've seen so much. I've been, oh man, in the beginning I was just missing so many opportunities because I was so eager to get it out there. I remember I was in a meeting with a huge business, and it could go either way, and I believed, okay, all I need to do is to give them an insight. You know, and then everything will change because that's what happened to me. And I started tuning more into, again, back to the power of listening deeper, and also knowing, so what we're doing when we're coaching is, at least how I see it, through the three principles. We're listening and pointing. That's what we're doing. And you can go to China in both places. You know, you can go really, really deep. And from what I've seen in the pointing phase of that, is that we're planting seeds. You know, we're just planting a seed, and the seed is not a full flower in that moment. You know, you plant the seed, and then, you know, the client is going away from the session and lives their life, and they see something, and you know, the seed is growing, and they come back to you, and you water, you know, and it's growing, and it's getting stronger and stronger. And this is what I've seen that's helped me with a bigger certainty that I know that I can help clients. And I don't have to rush it, and I'm not as eager as I was before, because I've had a coaching program now for 5 years. I've educated coaches, and I've been lucky enough to have some of the people in the group for up to 5 years. So I've seen transformations for what happened after 6 months, what happened after a year, 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And I just see that plant is growing bigger and stronger and more clear all the time, you know? So don't rush it, just sit there and listen from a beautiful feeling and love the, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'd really love to know how to say your name, because I've not heard it said yet. Would you mind introducing us?
I normally do this for people who are not Norwegian. I divide my name in two, like Kje is the first, Kje, and then Til. And the more advanced level is Kjetil.
We'll stick with the biggest one.
But I did date a woman from Canada once.
One of the 7.
Sorry?
One of the 7 women you talked about.
No.
I missed that session.
I just dated her. So I went to Toronto. I'm not going to share all the story. But actually, she was going to introduce me to her friends. And she said, "Can I call you Kjetil?" And I said, "Sure, that's fine." So that's more simple. You can call me Kjetil. Yeah. So, yes.
Could you say a bit more about what love means to you? It's such a nebulous word.
Yeah.
I'd just like to hear in your words how you reach that stage before you meet the client.
Well, I'm not sure if it's just before the client. For me, it's just a way of living my life.
Yeah.
But I will share a little bit of what comes to mind, and the power of it. You know, I've been working with Bill Pettit also for a while, and one time Bill forgot our sessions, and then we spoke the next day, and the way that he said, "I'm sorry," it made me cry. It was so heartfelt. It was just so heartfelt. And like now, I felt that because I remember, and I didn't understand this before, but when I met you in Salt Spring Island, we were there together for 2014 or 15, or I'm not sure, but I was at lunch with Chip because I really wanted to understand how can I speak from my heart, how can I live from my heart, how can I help people see that. And I asked Chip because he was such a heartfelt guy, you know. How do you do that? And he said, I just go to the feeling and feel what I feel in the moment or feel what I felt then. I just go there. And so for me it's about, you know, with the clients and yourself, it's about knowing that place in yourself, knowing all the different ways of love, you know, seeing it deeper in your own life and living it more out. So, and seeing all the personal thoughts that trips us. I don't know if that's the right English word to say, but stop taking that so seriously so we can come back to love, because that is the presetting, that is who we are. And seeing that more deeply, it's just, that's also where the certainty comes. So, thank you for that question.
There's a question here.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been answered, but my background's from health, and so when I started coaching, I was seeing success as absence of symptoms, and I still get caught up in that sometimes. It's like, well, when their anxiety's gone, that will be okay. So the bits I'm pointing to, the clients and myself, aren't it. And I notice that because of the feeling in me. So the love comes from when I remember not to point to those. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's a real kind of, it almost feels like natural, because you want somebody to be relieved from suffering, so we'll look at the anxiety. And it's like, no, just look to the love, look to that feeling. And the only way I could do that was with 3 principles, starting to know what that felt like for me, because I didn't know what it felt like for me, or I'd forgotten. So it's doing that work and actually knowing, it's a bit like, I don't know, if I want to go to London, don't go to Birmingham. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that sometimes. It's how do I feel that this is the relationship I want with my client. So for me, quite often, it's not finding the love, it's kind of, I was going to say ignoring, I don't even mean that because that's another in word, but it's not looking there.
Yeah.
It's helping the client to look here. And I can only do that if I'm in that place myself. Which means sometimes in a session saying, bear with me a minute, I'm kind of losing it, let's resettle.
Yeah.
So it's really getting into that kind of partnership and not looking to cure, you know, or, I mean, I really did think that health meant absence of symptoms, which is crazy. Health is so different. Health is vibrant and exciting and energizing. But a lot of us don't know that until we start to feel it.
And how would you ever change, like shift that paradigm just mentally? Do you know what I mean? You have to do it the way you're saying it, the way you're feeling into that, where it's like, no, I have to see that everything's allowed. And when you, because we can say that all you want, but until you felt, I can be in love, and anxiety can be here, and worry and doubt, and all of this can move through. Once you know that, then it's so obvious that that's
Yeah, it's not removing that.
right.
It's
right.
actually,
It's a
it goes
welcoming
on.
of everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, and love is like it's about being the change. So when we don't point to what's wrong, but we are the change we want to see. So we in the way we are with the client, we also show all this resourcefulness that we have with the client, so they can themselves experience it, right? And point to that, and point to this resourcefulness within them when they show up, and creating the insights. I think it's very important to show that. So creating, seeing the world as a question mark, being inquisitive, being, point to that creativity, I think is important.
I think what you guys are mentioning too, I mean, it's just like the beauty in this career and this work, however you do it, not just career, but it's like I remember kind of realizing this a while back that like, I have to be seeing this and feeling it for myself. Like that, it's not just like, oh, I get to because I talk about it, or it'd be nice if I do too. It's, we can only help to the extent that we're feeling this, and that can be heard a wrong way too. It doesn't mean you don't have bad days. It doesn't mean if you're feeling all caught up, you can't be in a session and point to something. All the time, I'm pointing to people. I'm pointing in a direction, and someone sees things in what I think is probably a deeper way than I've ever seen it. So it's not like we have to know more or even be more grounded or anything like that. But there is something in like, our priority gets to be our own health and our own grounding, and our work will absolutely improve from that, which is pretty cool. You know, so it's a nice focus, a nice priority to have.
Excuse me, I'm not a coach, as quite a few people are in this room, but I do listen to people in the industry I work in. I work in the catering industry in the UK, and it's suffering at the moment. People are burnt out. People are working God knows how many hours. Their families are struggling with that because they're not being with their families. I just wanted to know if you two could, sorry, it's very deep to my heart because I've been in this industry for a long time. Can you just maybe point me in a direction where I could speak to the executives? Because that's where it's going to start, and it's going to flow down like into the roots. Where, because you mentioned yourself about you speak to quite high businesses where you're probably involved. Where can I start to just point them in the direction where these people need help, they need support, they need, and understanding that they are okay. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that so heartfelt.
Thank you.
Well, there are so many resources, and I think sharing from that caring that you have is going to impact them. They will feel that, and also without any expectations, you know, just you know, we try stuff, and sometimes people listen, and you try something new. If they don't, or you go somewhere else, or speak to someone else, and learn every time also. But also, the more that you have seen in yourself, you can make a huge difference too. And look at yourself and your story, what's meant a lot to you. Maybe you know a coach or somebody who you can get help from, that can help your company. That's just what comes to mind now.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, just to echo that, I mean, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like official, you know, like it's not like, oh, I have my one chance with like the head of the board and I have to get it right, because that's how our mind will make it. Like, you know, you just share from the heart like you did, and then there's just gonna be a million opportunities. And it might take 20 conversations, and it might be a conversation with someone at your level or someone higher, or you just never know. But I do think there's something so beautiful in just being really honest about it, and people can feel that. We can have such an impact in ways that, like, we just don't expect at all, you know? Like, and I think, and you're not saying this, but often it's like even just coming into the principles, like the world has to get this and they have to change. You know, there's such a, again, like we talked about, such an energy around that. But if you look at that, I mean, sometimes that can be this thing that now we've made this outside in thing, like, oh, they don't understand, they don't have that understanding, so everyone's doomed to be miserable, and it isn't really like that. I mean, it's so immediate, it's so, like, we just talk with anyone and just share something, or just be in that feeling with them and help that kind of spark something to remember, like, oh yeah, my well-being's right here, even if my job is shit and I have to work long hours and all of these circumstances are not what I want, I can still be okay. So it's beautiful, we get to do both. We can try to have an impact and then have that come down from the top and change organizations and societies and thinking and paradigms. But then it's also from the bottom up, you know, it happens in both directions. Sorry, we're not that funny.
Is there still time?
Yeah.
Yes. We have a lot of discussion in Holland about conventional coaching, like trying to fix things with people for them, teaching them new capacities, and how that relates to three principles coaching, and how we're absolutely destroying their business model by introducing them to the three principles. And while I and my business partner, we both think that there's a way to just add a new paradigm on top of all the existing, just add to the clarity of what are you actually doing, and are you talking about the form or are you talking before the form?
Yes.
So I wonder how you look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it feels like we're changing a business model, or like Joe talked about this yesterday too. We're like, oh, my clients are gone now, but look at us. We're out here. We all traveled. Most of us traveled here. Like there's something in this too, you know. And just from what I've seen, like really pointing to that formless. Like there's a. I know this isn't exactly what you're asking, but it's like, there's a lot to see in that. It's not a one-shot deal, usually. It's not like, oh, well, now I see that I don't need any strategy, so I'm just totally good on my own. Like, there's a lot of depth, ton of depth in this to really explore. So it just, yeah, I think it only adds. Although on the surface, it can totally look like I'm not giving them the strategy they want, so, you know, they might not be interested.
Well, I can really relate to that. You know, I wrote a book and it did well in Norway, and I felt like I was really onto something with all the strategies and tools that I had. And suddenly I realized that I saw something else, something deeper in the principles, and I had a successful business, and suddenly I was going from you know, an expert in personal development to beginning as a novice in the principles, and my business was just like, it was just going down. So I needed to see it more deeply, or on the way I was like, oh man, why did I do this in a way? But as I came out of that, I just saw that, oh man, now I have that. What I really, really wanted always, to know that whatever comes in the door, I know what will help them. Doesn't matter what it is. That certainty that I never had. And the beauty in helping somebody realize their true potential and who they really are, it's just way beyond what I could do before. So, I'm grateful now, but yes, it was painful too. That's how I felt about it. It was, and many people are not willing to
Give that up.
no, they're not, you know, and it's understandable, but it's a good idea. That's what I felt, because now I know I can make a much bigger difference, and that's what I want. So, is that helpful?
Yeah, I'm here despite not earning much.
Yeah, yeah.
And it changes, you know, I mean, it's like, even coming into the principles, like, I'm in a phase right now where I'm like, some stuff's integrating, and I don't know the deepest place to point all the time, so, like, it's not like you come into the principles and now you're good forever. It like, I hope not, right? It just keeps deepening, but that's also what we're seeing with our clients, is they're going through that too. They're letting go of old things that felt like safety and opening to bigger things. So it's an awesome kind of universal thing that happens.
Thank you.
It only gets better.
Yeah, it should keep changing. And it's hard every time it changes, I think.
Sorry. And I heard many people say that it only gets better. And I was like, yeah, right, I don't feel it now, so what are you saying? But it's true. I've seen it in myself and so many other people, you know. When we catch on to that feeling, the more we really see that. Because I was so in doubt and insecurity and judgment without really realizing that for a long time. And fear in creating my business also. And then you start to catch on. And then you see the creativity coming to you. And that helps a lot. So I wanted to say something about what you had, unless there is anything. Yeah?
Yes, and because we live in separate realities and there's no one connecting the dots the way we do it, so I find it very helpful in a session, for example, to rephrase. But I would love to speak about the tools that we have, because not only focusing on what's not working, but also by inhabiting, by being the change we want to see, the behavior, being open-minded, the attitude. It would be nice also to focus on this and to explain as we relate to the principle. So for example, I find it very helpful sometimes to rephrase and to understand, is that what you meant? Or you know, really showing during the session, embracing the principle, using them as best as we can. So there is, if you could develop this as well, because it all relates also to executive functioning, so it's all this.
Beautiful. Was that a question or?
Yes, a question, no, in fact.
Sorry?
Can we speak about being the change? What
Being
it
the
means,
change?
yes, in the session, how do you, being open-minded, tapping to creativity and all these things, and pointing this by showing it in us as well. Thank you.
Do you want to go? I can go.
Well, I think you said it really well. I mean, really, it's come up a lot. It's like, there's so many ways, you know, maybe a take on it is kind of that distinction between teaching, which happens sometimes, however we work with people, even as a coach, as anything, there's aspects of teaching, right? There's things that we're pointing toward, and then there's things that we're drawing out, but also that we're drawing out of ourselves, or that we're letting kind of come up and be there from ourselves. So, yeah, it's like these are all just words, and even to your point, these words will mean totally different things to everyone, so we want to check that with our clients, but it's like, it's our presence, our energy, our love, our listening.
So it's an insight-based
Yes.
conversation, right? So
Yeah.
it's like referring to the question, like mentoring and coaching. It's both, right? You draw out and you mentor at the same time,
Yes.
and then you adapt in the session.
Yes, yes. So it feels like, this is too much form, but it feels like, yes, there's a listening, a connecting, a curiosity, like on our part, we're so curious about like, how do you see things? How are they, what are they getting? Like, what are they hearing? How do they see the world? And we, to me, it's like there's a lot of pulling that out. And then sometimes there's this kind of pulling over to the side of the road, and it's like, okay, well, let's talk about this for a minute. And maybe there's a little bit of pointing or teaching in that. So it feels like it's a little bit of a back and forth.
Conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
And the mentoring bit is when you take their hand and walk with them. And just kind of, just be with them. I know they're different, I like that, it's a different, all of them come into it.
Yeah, you're checking it.
You can mentor and then,
Yeah. There's like this checking, like,
Yeah.
here's what I see, what do you see? And then they go out in a mentoring setting, let's say, they go out and do something in the world, and then they come back to you, and you're like, ooh, what did you see? And how did it go? And then you reflect that back. So yeah, it's exactly, yeah. Okay, there's two more, so go here and then here.
Do you think there's a risk for coaches for getting a bit too deep, too spiritual? They get a bit too far away from the mainstream, or the mainstream, the busy, normal walking people that they're trying to serve? Because I've observed that when I'm helping my friend who's a transformative coach trying to explain what she does. They go, she sounds a bit too deep and spiritual. I'm busy, I'm running a business, I've got stuff to do, I'm stressed. And she's on this journey to get deeper and deeper into stuff. I'm like, actually, let's just start with some very simple things, you're feeling, you're thinking. Some people don't like that, so that phrase in the walk itself is just too simple, we're going deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And I what we felt about that, because we do need to market this to people who are very busy and in the world before. So it's just, there is a risk if we have these languages among ourselves and these words that just don't actually resonate with people that aren't naturally spiritual initially. About how you that answer you guys in the force.
Yeah, I don't see it as a risk, but I think you're right. It's something that, like, yeah, we need to kind of know our audience, right? And I think that just comes in, and you probably have more experience than I do with this, but like just, yeah, getting that feel for like staying in our own grounding, but then like and it's not even like knowing, to me, it's not even like knowing how to talk about it, but it's that interaction.
Yeah.
It's that like, let me see how deep I can go. Usually I'll go pretty deep, and then you feel them. When you're working with people, you get really good at that, right? You can see, did they just kind of glaze over? Are they like into it more? And then you just feeling that out and taking the language to a place where you have maybe more of a common ground, but we're still pointing to the same thing.
Yeah.
But you're right, I think you just kind of have to be aware of that.
I come from more of a marketing angle, sort of creating platform, putting words out there, at least to explain it. It's just that sort of like, I want this to be deep. I was like, yeah, it just sounds quite wishy-washy. So actually, it's sort of start somewhere and bring people along. But I hear what you're saying. When you want to
Balance,
you
yeah.
get that feel for it. But thank you.
In a mix, maybe,
Yeah.
because we never know either, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
as marketers, we kind of
Right.
think we know what they like or whatever, what they're gonna hear, we don't know, so it's like you can do some deep, and then you kind of come up here a little bit.
Yeah, run some experiments.
Yeah.
And you could ask them,
Yeah.
I would like to go deeper, is that okay?
Yeah. I was talking about more marketing practices, stuff, websites, LinkedIn, etc. How do you talk about it in a way that appeals to business leaders who are very stressed, or people in catering who are really having their heads all as execs? It's getting the wording right for those people to take them on that journey. You were saying like mentoring, holding their hand. And there's a risk sometimes in the language that we all used to get, but we speak in a particular way, which is quite exceptional and beautiful, but it's different from a lot of people outside. We need to perhaps start with them and bring them on this journey. Doing that on the marketing collateral is a different job from when you're in presence and you're with someone, because actually then you can feel, and connect with them that way.
Yeah, and holding our ideas about that really loosely, because I feel like that's shifting a lot. Like I feel like even from 10 years ago when I used to talk about what I would do, everything was so more about like solving a problem and being way up here, and then you could bring them in. But now I don't know, I don't know either, but it feels like you can go, there's a desire for a little depth, so, but you never know, you just play and see. Yeah.
I like what you said, Eileen, like being the presence and asking, is it what you would like to do? Is it what you think of this? May I suggest something?
Yeah.
And again, it's really embracing that is really nice.
Asking for permission to go a little bit outside the topic, and then you can try it.
Just
Go in.
Well, it's a dance, right?
It's a dance.
It's a dance. So you have to be really in tune.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And really connecting with people. You know. And then you draw it out. You know, and you use their words in what means something to them. And then you draw them a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit. You just feel what they're ready for, you know. Yeah. I think was it?
Yeah. So I just want to share something because it kind of encompasses quite a lot of what people have been saying today. So I come into this whole coaching thing back to front in that I came across the principles first, and I'm now doing my Institute of Leadership and Management Level 5 in coaching and mentoring, which is more of that kind of formal thing. I've had to write an essay, folks. Not since 1990 something I last did that. But at first, I got the qualification, access to it by free, because I volunteered for something, the Help to Grow scheme with the government. And they'd given me this, and I thought, what the heck, I'll just go and mind it and see what it's all about. And in actual fact, the alignment has been more than not. You know, one of the things that I think, I was chatting to you, the lady who shared the thing about holding the hand, and, that's what I said to her yesterday, that really I see us more as mentors. That's something, and kind of insight I've had through doing that training, that we are walking alongside somebody, and we're equals, and, we're just having a conversation about life and sharing it. But I was really surprised how, having come to it, really most people do the formal and then come into the 3 principles. I've done it the other way around. And how it is all the same thing. There's some beautiful, Julie Starr in particular, one of the authors who I was pointing towards my training, and she's the one who said, the mentoring, coaching, the mentoring relationship is one of benevolence. It's that you as the mentor want the person who sat in front of you to experience a nicer life. You want the best for them, and I think that's where we all come from. And we don't need division, do we, between us and them? And we all actually in our heart want somebody who's sat in front of us to just have a less shitty life, don't we? And that's it, and that's all we need, is to be just looking like that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Was that the...
That was our time.
That was our time. All right, so thank you.